Hi sir, so you've witnessed the Black July 1983 anti-Tamil riots memorial event that happened today where 3,000 Tamils were killed, and so many Tamil Canadians here are remembering all the people that were killed in Sri Lanka, where Tamil people were burned in buses, and over the course of 2 to 3 days 3,000 Tamil citizens were massacred by ethnic Sinhalese people in Sri Lanka. And what is your first response to this event here and then to the events in Sri Lanka itself?
Well, I mean, for the event here, the first thing I was very impressed with was the mobilization of the community. I think it's amazing that you can rally this kind of support to this kind of an event to remember the kind of violence that was enacted upon Tamil people in Sri Lanka. You know, given what I've learned this evening, I absolutely support a war crimes investigation by the UN. I think it would be a gross injustice if there wasn't such an investigation. And if there's nothing for the Sri Lankan government to hide, then I don't see why they would oppose a full investigation by the United Nations.
Yeah, and recently, our MPs tried to go there, like Bob Rae, Patrick Brown, and they were denied entry, saying that Canadian MPs are a security threat to Sri Lanka. What's your thinking of a government saying that to Canada?
Well, it's obvious that the government is trying to hide something.
Yeah.
I mean, if they weren't trying to hide something, then they wouldn't be afraid to have those people visit the country. You know, and there's something rather absurd about suggesting that a Canadian member of Parliament could in any way be a threat to the sovereignty of any nation.
That's true. Do you have anything to say to the Tamil people that are here in Canada and the youth that are here as well? What would be your thoughts on that to them?
Well, I think people have to stand up for what they believe in. I think people have to throw their passions behind, the cause of justice.
Yes.
Wherever there's an injustice happening in our lives or in the world, we have to stand up against that. I personally don't believe violence is the first resort ever.
Yeah, that's
violence answered with violence generally just leads to more violence. Nevertheless, it's our responsibility as individuals to always, and communities, to always stand against any injustice that we see occurring.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the injustices continue. And I was telling you earlier that I'm a First Nations Canadian. And I think many First Nations people would understand the kind of colonial struggles that Tamil people are facing and that many other people are facing all around the world.
And given that the Permanent People's Tribunal in Dublin, Ireland of January 16th of this year, 2010, they did their own investigation and they found that Sri Lanka is guilty of war crimes and that they are guilty of crimes against humanity, and they were pending their verdict on whether it was genocide or not. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that the Canadian government should support such an international investigation into?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the responsibility of the Canadian government to support any war criminal being brought before the courts, brought before the international courts, and made to answer for their actions.
And would you believe that would you buy any product from such a government like Sri Lanka or from that country that they export?
Not after tonight, no.
Not after tonight.
No.
So some of the things that they export are that Gap. They manufacture clothing from Sri Lanka, and Victoria's Secret. You yourself as a consumer making socially conscious decisions, right now you're saying that you will not buy anything that's manufactured in Sri Lanka because you do know that money, that's the tax that goes to fund their military, is carrying out brutal crimes against the Tamil people, and there's so many allegations, there's so much problems. So again, would you recommend your friends to buy anything from Sri Lanka, or would you completely be against that?
No, I mean, in a lot of countries like Sri Lanka, foreign currency is highly in demand. Canadian dollars or American dollars go a long way, and certainly a government that refuses to at least open its borders to investigators or observers doesn't deserve the support of the Canadian taxpayer.
Exactly, and it's most of our Canadian tax money that was given to them as donations earlier on that did fund their weapons and artillery that massacred the Tamil people.
I just wanted to say that I think, you know, one of the important things about an event like tonight is education, right? I think, you know, for most Canadian people, it would be difficult to find Sri Lanka on the map. And I think most Canadians, the understanding of the Tamil struggle in Sri Lanka is probably fairly limited. So I think an important function of an event like this evening is simply to educate people, to tell them what the facts are and let them decide for themselves how they should respond.
Sri Lanka was receiving benefits from the European Union in terms of trade benefits, where they would get a discounted tax on their imports into Europe. And recently the European Union has decided that they will cancel those benefits because the Sri Lankan government is not respecting human rights and they're not allowing war crimes investigations. And because of that, they have taken that step of canceling those benefits to Sri Lanka until it does allow a war crime investigation or improves the human rights record. Would you welcome that?
Absolutely. I mean, and you know, fortunately, often the European Union is one step ahead of the North American governments in terms of making these kinds of moves. And you know, as long as there isn't international pressure in support of these investigations, then they're unlikely to happen. I doubt that the Sri Lankan government is suddenly going to volunteer to open up the country to these kinds of investigations. So, I mean, it's vital that we have international pressure from respected democracies, bringing that pressure to bear so that there can be open and complete investigations. Thank you to everybody who was here tonight at this rally for providing an opportunity for people like myself to learn about what's happening in Sri Lanka.
Thank you.
Thank you.